Well, movers, shakers, and change makers, welcome. This is Vivek Modi, your host for today's episode of AES Speaker Series. Today we have our honorable guest, Professor Axel Stepken, with us. Welcome, Professor.
Hello.
Now, before I introduce today's topic and Professor Stepken, I would like to say a few words about Asian European Society and introduce the structure of today's event. Founded in 2019, Asian European Society provides a platform for students and young professionals to create cross-cultural connections. Our mission is to foster and strengthen the mutual respect and understanding between Asia and Europe. In addition to the speaker series, we organize a wide range of events such as corporate workshop and social events. We started as a student initiative at Technical University of Munich and now slowly growing into a global community with members across the world. If our work interests you, connect with us on aesmuc.de or on our social media handles. Now coming to today's topic, trust. Trust is a foundation of everything that we do. The world runs on trust. Companies innovate on trust. Smart cities connect on trust. Only with trust, technology can reach its potential and solve humanity's greatest challenges. However, trust is something that is hard to gain, difficult to maintain, and easy to lose. So how do we build trust in systems that addresses market needs of today and growth and development of tomorrow? This brings me to introducing our speaker of today, Professor Dr. Axel Stepken. He was born in Essen, Germany, and graduated with a degree in electrical engineering from RWTH Aachen and achieved his PhD in high voltage engineering in 1989. Upon completion of his PhD, Professor Stepken worked at ABB, where he had held several management positions in Germany and Indonesia within the power transmission and distribution segment. In October 2002, he joined the board of International Service Group and was responsible for the strategic business of the Asia region. In this phase, TUV Sud expanded his presence in Asia Pacific significantly. Since 2007, Professor Stepken has been serving as the CEO of TUV Sud AG. Now, without any further delay, we have been looking so much forward to hear you, Professor. So the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivek. I will try now to share my screen. So, does it work? Very good. Yeah, thank you very much for this very kind invitation to today's session, and to give me the opportunity to talk about trust in this world. And I think I can just jump over the next slide, because you gave a very nice invitation to my person. I have been really by profession, I have been electrical engineer, but after my time in ABB, which is an electrical an engineering company, as you may know, I joined TÜV Süd, and in this function, and you will hear a little bit about TÜV Süd in a minute. It's not just electrical engineering, which I have to do with on the technical side, but it is basically the whole bandwidth of technologies which you can imagine, which is real in these days all over the world. And we will come to that. And as this is the case, you were absolutely right when you say that technology only can be successful if people trust in technology, if they trust in the safety of technology, and societies can build, so to say, on the strength of these technologies. Otherwise, the best innovation is nothing worth if people do not trust these innovations. And I would like, before I talk 1,000 words about TÜV Süd, I would like to show you one 2.5 minutes movie about TÜV Süd, which introduces our company pretty well. So I hope it works.
In every market, across every industry, every business is shaped by its life cycle. And while each stage of the business life cycle brings different challenges, there is one constant: the need for a reliable partner at every stage to ensure quality, safety, and sustainability. A partner like TÜV Süd. Right from the onset of planning and design, our experts partner governments and businesses to increase certainty and avoid pitfalls that may lead to costly delays, rework, or even safety issues. During manufacturing and construction, we provide assurance of quality, reliability, and consistency across the entire supply chain without compromising on cost efficiency or time to market. And throughout operation and optimization, right up to decommissioning, our experts ensure availability and performance while minimizing downtime. The TÜV Süd Octagon is a sure sign of quality, safety, and sustainability. We support clients globally with a comprehensive suite of services spanning testing and product certification, inspection, auditing and system certification, knowledge services, and training. These services add real value at every stage of the business life cycle, across every industry. Our holistic approach enables us to view your operation in its entirety and offer complete solutions to optimize the potential of your business. 150 years of TÜV Süd, 150 years of inspiring trust.
So it is not just in the year 2021 that trust became important. No, the original idea of, so to say, founding a TÜV is, as it was said in the movie, more than 150 years ago, exactly in the year 1866. And the reason why TÜV was founded was that there was a very, very bad accident in a beer brewery in the city center of Mannheim in Germany. And this accident caused several deaths, and a major part of the inner city of Mannheim was destroyed in 1865. And then in 1866, the manufacturers and the operators of steam pressure vessels, which actually are used in beer breweries, found it necessary to do something, because they had the feeling that if they get not this very dangerous technology, the steam pressure vessels under control, that they will disappear, including their technology, again from the market. And then they founded an independent association, which was called, in German we say Dampfkessel Überwachungsverein, so Steam Pressure Inspection Association. And they founded that, and they put the best engineers from the operators and from the manufacturers into this independent association, and they gave it a mission. And this mission is the same in 1866 as it is today in our company. And this mission is called to protect people, assets, and the environment from technical risks. So that was valid in 1866 for the steam pressure vessels, and today it's valid for all kinds of power stations, process plants, chemical plants, medical equipment, toys, cars, you name it. So this in the complete bandwidth of technology which you can imagine, there might be technical risks in any innovation, which we know. And the task of our company, and of course of our competitors, companies all over the world, and the industry is called TIC industry, testing, inspection, certification industry. this mission, this purpose of this idea is still the same. And today, what comes in addition to, so to say, these old technologies is today the age of digitalization, because digitalization, in addition to, so to say, the traditional technologies, changes, yeah, I would, as it says here on the slide, changes everything, because trust is the defining currency of the digital age. And I will show you several examples to prove this thesis. Because you can see digital technologies emerging on every corner in private and business life. And it is not only the case that there are more and more technologies on the market. No, in addition to that, time to market decreased enormously over the last years. Imagine it took nearly 80 years in the US from the first, so to say, introduction of a refrigerator into a household until 90% of the households in the US had a refrigerator. So 80 years. When you look at the, so to say, the period from the first iPhone being introduced on the American market until 90% of the households in the US had an iPhone in their hands or on their desks, it took 7 years. So you see there how fast, meanwhile, innovations are put into markets. And therefore, one central aspect for us as a company doing the testing, inspection, certification, especially of services, is to make technologies even safer and more secure. And when I talk about more secure, we talk about cyber risks for the digital technologies. And just to give you one example, a couple of years ago, we created what we call a so-called honey net to investigate the dangers of a cyber attack and how attackers, so to say, attack technical installations. We used real hardware and real software by simulating a small waterworks somewhere in the German countryside. So it was a fake waterwork, and we connected this fake waterwork to the internet, gave it an IP address, connected it to the internet, and it took 6 seconds until we got the first attack by somebody. And we had that fake waterworks 8 months in the internet, and we had 60,000 incidents. Not everything were real attacks. Maybe somebody just put in the wrong IP address while he looked for something else. But we had 11 cases out of these 60,000 in these 8 months where we exactly could see that the persons who intruded into our fake waterworks knew exactly what they did. They changed parameters in the Siemens S7 control units. They tried to change other software features in that. And here you see what can happen. And what we did is, so we promoted that. We went to conferences to show that there are even a very small company in Germany, which is not even real, can be a target for cybersecurity attacks. And this showed that the full potential of cyber attacks is not yet really known. Some people still take that not really serious. And one thing is that we all know these cyber frauds. Meanwhile, that is usually the case that money is stolen. But in our case, for instance, when it comes to security of technical devices like waterworks, like power stations, like chemical plants and so, cyber attacks can cause severe safety issues with, in the worst case, even people being left dead after such an attack. And what we do is we offer lots of services. Meanwhile, next to what we call functional safety testing, we meanwhile offer, in addition to the functional testing of a technical equipment, a product or a system, we offer cyber security checks, and we test also complicated infrastructure facilities according to cybersecurity standards in IEC and ISO and other standards, which I will not go into detail now, to make sure that the products and the systems and the facilities are safe and secure. Another aspect which also needs a lot of trust in society is the aspect of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence applications are developing right now at a very rapid pace. And as they do so, they are influencing more and more areas of our life. And once they are available on the market, people even do not know that they use an AI application. Artificial intelligence has its very firm place in all our lives. Think of Siri, think of Alexa. In other words, gadgets which are sometimes helpful and sometimes funny, and when you look behind the scenes, sometimes even freaky. And to some of us, they are full of promises, and for some others, they might be even nightmares. And what we need is we need a level playing field, and we need clear regulations. We need clear standards how these artificial intelligence applications should work, and people, so that people can be sure and can be can trust these technologies, that decisions, for instance, by algorithms are not taken including bias, for instance. You know, all these examples of bias during application processes where HR departments use artificial intelligence algorithms to select people. And if the algorithm does not work properly, suddenly there are only one part of, so to say, the application accepted, and all the others, they just fall out. And therefore, it is important to have clear standards so that people can rely on that, and that companies like ours, independent testing companies, can test these algorithms. And it's not just, so to say, the Siris and the Alexas and so on, which we know. No, in future, more and more medical equipments, medtech products will use artificial intelligence to come to decisions. You see on the left-hand side, for instance, here on the diagram on the right-hand side, pictures from the human brain, and of course, image processing can provide a lot of assistance for the doctors to detect diseases. But if this is done wrong, then of course it may have a very severe bad effect. And I could go through many other examples in different technical areas where also already today artificial intelligence and algorithms is used. And one very prominent one is what you also know here is our cars. In each and every car today with the driver's assistance systems, we find algorithms, machine learning functions, not just for the automatic driving cars, but also for the simple driver assistance systems. And here we all trust in the software, and so that is possible. Also for that, we need clear standards, global standards, how these algorithms can be tested, can be made sure that later, maybe in 5 or 10 years, completely automatic driving cars can drive without accidents, not just in the desert of the USA, but also here on our Autobahn, and then later even in large cities with together with cars which are driven by human beings. And just as an example, we were the first company who made it possible that a so-called self-driving bus in Germany, in a small city in the southern part of Bavaria, which is called Bad Birnbach, can now drive on the road. It is operated by Deutsche Bahn and the local municipality. And this is, so to say, one solution to assist the public transport for the last mile. Yeah? So you have the normal public buses, and then the bus stops at the bus station, and for the last mile to your home, you're just driven by a self-driving small bus for 6 passengers in this case. And we made it possible that this can drive without accidents on the streets. And meanwhile, we have many other industrial partners, but also partners in the government who rely on our services to come up with proposals for test procedures to make sure that these cars and buses drive safely, because we have one problem which is also related and connected to the fact that technologies are introduced faster and faster into the markets. We have in these very innovative topics, we have a lack of regulations. There are no proven standards from which we can say, okay, if this and this is given, then something is really safe. Now we have to, without having proven standards and regulations, we and also competitors make sure that we have the right expertise, instead of not having standards to assist our customers, the OEMs, for instance, of Tesla and others, that their cars are safe. And the question always is, what is safe? And especially, when is it safe enough that it can really drive on the streets? That is a matter of trust. Then each car, and we all know these small accidents and also larger accidents of Teslas and other self-driving cars in the US, whenever such an accident happens, of course, is a little piece of mistrust possible, which is of course very bad for the business of the OEMs and others. And I talked a lot about trust when it comes to technologies, but when we look at international businesses, creating trust internationally requires an alignment of not only technology, no, it's also an alignment of organization and also the processes. And especially now in the age of, or in the year of the pandemic, we all know what happened to us personally, and the same obviously happens also to us in the companies. We cannot meet people, and still we have to continue our business. So we just have, now we had to, so to say, move our physical presence in the offices and traveling around the world. So we suddenly had to move that into the virtual room, which is a complete change of our behavior as human beings, because we want to meet people, we need to meet people. Usually we have to meet people, also create trust, have common dinners with somebody, lunches with somebody, spend some time with people in their surroundings and so on. And that all was skipped and was no longer possible since March 2020. And everything had to go into the virtual world, and still it worked. Everything like Zoom, for instance, I mean, who knew Zoom really before the pandemic? Some of us maybe, but I can tell you from my own experience in the company, it was very hard to convince our people before the pandemic to use a video conference instead of traveling somewhere. And when you compare just the costs, then there were always debates, yeah. When you say, okay, why the heck do you have to travel to China for an internal meeting? Just do it per video conference. Before the pandemic, that was hard to convince people, because they always said, people don't trust me when they don't see me in the room. But since we have the pandemic, I think this argument is no longer valid. I can tell you from our company, we have not even lost business. In many cases, we have even increased our business during the pandemic, despite the fact that we could not meet people. And yeah, we would have said in the past, we could not, and people could not have trusted us. And what is important also is in these times also the aspect of diversity and inclusion, especially in the international business. I give you a very prominent and easy example. The new CEO of Siemens in China is now a Chinese manager. In China born manager. Yes, he is a long-term Siemens employee. He also studied in Germany and everything, but he is a Chinese. I would say 10 years ago, that would have been completely impossible. And most of the German, even international companies have German CEOs on top of their companies in China. And also we have that. But I can tell you, also we have a clear plan that whenever it is possible, and it should be as soon as possible, that also we will have a Chinese citizen on top of the organization in China, as we have it also in other parts in our company. So this is a very important aspect, the aspect of diversity and inclusion. And maybe because I would like to give you some time also and opportunity to ask questions. This is a slide from our strategy deck, and the slide which we always show also to our own people. It shows on one slide where we stand for. Our claim as to Südis: add value, inspire trust. So even on our claim, we have the word trust. We understand ourselves as the trust broker between, so to say, manufacturers and the users of a product, or the users of the operators of a facility, and therefore they rely on us as being the trust broker between these two parties. And the purpose is today the same as I said before, as it was 152 years ago: enabling progress by protecting people, the environment, and assets from technology-related risks. And our vision in that is to be the trusted partner of choice for safety, security, and sustainability solutions that add tangible value to our clients in the physical and digital world. So I do not want to go into more details of mission and so on. You can read that, and you have also a copy of that. And but what you see is that also the topic of today's speech about trust, that is, so to say, in the midst of our genes as TÜV Süd. It is our DNA to create trust. And last but not least, if you're interested, this is now the promotion block of my speech. If you're interested in, let's say, having an internship or maybe looking for a job as an expert in Germany, but anywhere in the world, then please have a look at our website. We have I think a quite good career paid part in our website, and I just encourage you, have a look at it. And you see here at the lower part of the picture, we have 25,000 employees, and we just need approximately each year 3,600 people whom we need to employ. And although we are a technology company, the aspect of diversity inclusion is getting more and more important, and therefore it's also important to know that meanwhile, fortunately, we have approximately 1/4 of our employees are female employees. But when I talk about diversity inclusion, I think it's also important also for the aspect of trust, and that is my last remark to that, that for us, there is no difference between people from different cultures, from religions, or female, male, and whatever. We are a real global company here. And when you look at our organization chart and see all these different names from different countries, I can tell you this is today not different from any other engineering company in which you might want to work for. So with that, say thank you very much for your attention so far. And now I'm happy to answer questions if you have some. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Stepken, for an interesting and insightful talk. I was fascinated by the experiment of self-driving bus. And as soon as possible, I want to go down to Munich and experience that by myself.
Yes. Bad Birnbach is the village or the town.
Close to Munich, yeah.
Yep.
So we'll open our Q&A session, and all the participants, once again, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Use that to submit your questions. I will open Q&A session with a personal question, Professor. You did mention that Siemens CEO in China is now a Chinese person, and in your last slide, you did emphasize how you at your firm consider diversity an important factor. We have read a lot about the contribution of diversity in growth of business and in overall aspects of organizational side. But I would like to learn what is your perspective on the importance of diversity in building trust within the organization and also with business partners.
I mean, when I started at TÜV Süd, which was approximately nearly 20 years ago, this was a real German company. And before I joined TÜV Süd, I told you at the beginning, I worked for ABB, and ABB at that time was already a global company. So I was 3 years in Indonesia, starting their joint venture. And at the end, I had 160 people in that joint venture after 2 years. And they were out of 18 different nations, 18 different nations. And when you work in a, so to say, in a remote place, even in a global company, it's so important that you have, so to say, really also this global culture around you, because it helps you to have all these, or you have good networks into the large corporations. And that always, when I was at that time I was below 40 years old, but that really showed me also in my younger management days that it must be a target also for me in TÜV Süd to make this company, which had a market in front of itself when I started here, and it was my task to make that company international, that I have also to make the workforce, the management international. So we replaced a lot of Germans by international managers. And just as an example, we have 3 people in our management board. I'm the CEO, and then we have a CFO and a COO, so a Chief Operating Officer. And our COO is Ishan Palit. He is in, let's say, he was born in Mumbai in India, but he is now he is American citizen. And his location is not Munich, no, his location is Singapore. So because I was so convinced that having somebody in the top management, even in the board of a TÜV, and TÜV, as I said, 20 years ago, we were really German. I would even say Bavarian. And now we have an Indian American living in Singapore, working from Singapore in his global role. And I think that also showed the company how important is this aspect of diversity. I hope that explains a little bit my thinking of that.
It does, absolutely. And we at AES, we love diversity and connecting bridge between 2 continents. But talking about that, do you also believe that it becomes more challenging when the business is spread across different continents to establish trust?
It is absolutely important. And also it is important in the relation between our customers and ourselves. So let me just give you one example of a very important business model which we have. So when you buy a non-food product here in Germany, in Lidl or in Aldi or in Metro, you can be sure that all these products, most of these products, were produced in China or in other Asian countries. So textile, for instance, clothes are produced in Bangladesh or in Vietnam. Electronics are produced in South Korea or in China, and so on. And in the past, these products were tested in German labs. Meanwhile, these products obviously are tested in China and in Korea or in Thailand and Bangladesh, India, everywhere in the world. And trust between, let's say, our role as trust broker, as I said it before, can only work that when our customers can rely on the performance of our people wherever they are in the world. And therefore, despite all different cultures, different languages, different religions, colors, and whatever in the world, our customers expect one TÜV Süd quality. And this is the balance which we have to achieve between this, so to say, this 150 years German engineering quality heritage with everybody, especially in Germany, connects with the expression TÜV. When you ask somebody in Germany, what do you think about TÜV? He says, okay, it's quality, it's safety, it's sustainability. And this is what our customers expect from us, by the way, not only in Germany, also in other parts of the world. And therefore, they give us the product, the contracts, and they expect that it's always the same quality wherever our services are provided. And therefore, yeah, diversity and trust and international business goes together.
Thank you, Professor. I'll take a participant's question now, and that is also goes in line with the question that I wanted to ask next. So we did just learn how important trust is, but despite all the standards and security systems in place, every now and then we hear about a hack or a data breach. Tech giants like Microsoft, Facebook, as well as sensitive companies that are holding sensitive data like credit cards and all, such as eBay, all have been haunted by data breaches. Even Adult Friend Finder lost last year 420 records. Now, I don't want to get into details of what kind of personal data got leaked there, but this is scary. What is your take on this, and what are firms doing wrong? What is more that they need to do?
The last example which you brought with this dating platform is a very good example. I mean, yes, let's suppose you are registered on that platform and you have given some, let's say, pictures, whatever, and they are stolen. That is bad. But you know what is even worse? When you have the same password and the same username in 20 other platforms which you use, including your bank, including your company company account, and because that is what is critical about these data breaches. It is, of course, with Adult Friend, or whatever the name of this platform was, this dating platform. Yes, it's bad if there your data are stolen, but that damage is limited. But you can, and that is my answer to your question, what you always should do is you should separate the different platforms from each other to have different usernames, different passwords. So if you are hacked in one platform, that you do not have automatically the same problem with 20 other platforms. So when you ask me personally, there are not two platforms in my private life and also in my business life here which have the same user and the same password. And change it from time to time and make the password as long as possible. Use password managers and other helpers to make sure that these things cannot happen, because you can have the best technical firewall, you can have the best technical equipment. There will always be hackers who will somehow find a way into systems. And we have again here in our company, we have, unfortunately, you might have heard about the so-called CEO letter fraud. So again, we have right now 2 CEO letters. So there are letters in my name being sent via email to employees here. One is obviously fake. Many people recognize it, but the other one is so good that you have really to look twice so that you recognize that this is a fraud letter. And these things can cost a lot of money in companies, and in private life, it costs your private money. Be careful. And always think whom you give your data. Be sure that that person exists and that you can be pretty sure that let's say the original person you give the data to is trustful.
And what should firms do from their side to maintain that trust of their customers?
Companies, yeah. So one thing is that they prove to their customers that at least their technical installation, their processes, their organizations are designed in a way that they can prove that there is a kind of security by design concept. And I think I mentioned that during my speech, that there are technical and also process and system standards which describe how to do that. And we have a pretty large organization to audit these systems and also to give certificates. And maybe there is another aspect which shows how important that is for us. So we are part of the so-called Charter of Trust. The Charter of Trust is a group of 17 very large companies, international companies. The initiation came from Siemens, and also there's Airbus in, there's Daimler in, there is Allianz in, and Cisco is in, Dell, IBM, so very large corporations. Also we are in. And this Charter of Trust, and maybe you have a look at the internet, it's really interesting to look at it, has 10 principles, and these 10 principles describe or try to describe, so to say, a framework which is necessary in our view to make companies not only safe, but also secure, so that data cannot disappear, and also technical equipments, processes and products are secure.
The next question comes from Maria. She asks, I'm interested what Professor Stepken's standpoint is on the challenge between speed of innovation versus multi-step process required for proper certification/audits of new technologies. How can we guarantee both and not lose competitive advantage by potential long-term certification process?
I mean, so to say, the traditional certification process is still reality in the vast majority of all cases. But looking, for instance, at a topic like this automatic driving cars, there is no standard. There is no proven regulation. So what we do is today, and that is really different from other technologies, so that when the OEMs or also tier 1 or tier 2 suppliers develop their technologies, we are part of the development. So there is this famous agile process where we are part of these groups who, in a kind of continuous improvement process, develop their new products. So a good example is the company Mobileye, which is part of Intel. And Mobileye is, so to say, the products of Mobileye are basically, meanwhile, in all large, or in all cars of the large OEMs, as sensors and also the algorithms for driver assistance modules. And today there is no standard to test that. Yeah? So we do that together with them. Our problem there is that also we, of course, we have always to be a little bit ahead of, so to say, the technology, especially on the safety side, compared to the technological knowledge of our companies. But based on the experience of our people, and we have very, very good people, especially in that area, we provide them with services which they, without us, would not have. And they need that also to create trust for their sensors and algorithms with their customers. Yeah, so Mobileye has sensors and algorithms and the subsystem for the self-driving car, and that will be then sold to BMW, Volkswagen, whatever. And they require, of course, a safe and secure product. And with our certification and with our assistance there, it is easier for them to convince them. Another technology where we also had a similar topic was, as you know, I'm an electrical engineer, and when the area of electrical cars started 10 years ago, nobody really thought that would go so fast as it goes now. I said, we need to have a test lab for batteries, because the first burning battery will kill that technology. So we have, meanwhile, the largest battery test lab here in Germany. It's in Garching, close to Munich. And there we have the same problem. There were no standards, there were no norms, there were no regulations. And I always say we have there, in German, we say Jugend forscht. So we are a lot of students from the TUM, from the other side of the highway, and also people who just got their master in electrical engineering or in mechanical engineering, and they started to work with us. And we have a very, very young team there. When you look at the lab there, I think the oldest one is maybe meanwhile 35 years old. And they create together with our customers, with the big Volkswagens and BMWs and Mercedes and Porsche, all these batteries were in our test lab. And they created the standards and norms together with our customers. And now we have standards and norms. And now we can, we so to say, we roll that technology, this test technology with these new standards out into the world. Meanwhile, we have, just in China, we have 3 labs, and each of them is larger than the one which we have here in Garching, which is the largest one in Germany. And we have, meanwhile, in China, 3 of these. Also with young people, there are one is now the head of, so to say, our battery testing in China. It's a young guy, I think he's now 32. He did his master thesis in our lab here in Garching, and now he engineers plans and also is the project manager of the new building of all these new labs there in China. So this is how it works today, and that is maybe an answer to the question. It is no longer in these very fast innovations. It's no longer possible to have, so to say, first the fixed product, which is in the view of the OEM, of the supplier, ready, and then they call us and say, now we need a certification. No, that doesn't work anymore. It's a together.
Mm-hmm. So following up on that question, Professor, you did touch that the regulatory framework is really lacking behind when it comes to technological innovation. And how can we also maybe think in the direction of how can we improve that? I mean, governments have been lacking behind for like now ever when it comes to implementing standards for tech industry. And it's growing every day exponentially. How do we close this gap?
First of all, it's important to understand that standards and norms are not given by governments. This is done by the industry itself. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So standards are, so to say, the standard is a corporation of all the market players who have something to do with that technology. Operators, manufacturers, engineers, testing companies, certification companies, and so on. We sit together, and then this process of coming to a new standard takes up to 4 or 5 years, which is too long. The reason, what is changing right now is the way how these norms are developed. Also, these norms are developed in an agile process. So everything is done meanwhile on platforms. It's less and less these huge meetings, and you know that we always say standards circus. So there are experts traveling around the world. They have nice meetings in Brazil, in Mexico, in Japan, and so they're traveling to come together and come to an agreement on norms. Today, this is done virtually, and this speeds up the process. And then these standards and norms are more and more modularized. So I had this aspect, for instance, of artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence, or the algorithms which are used, for instance, in medtech, are different from the ones in self-driving cars and in the ones who control, for instance, the power station, or in other processes, also in SAP and so on. These are different algorithms, but there are some, so to say, basis functionalities which are the same generically across all technologies. So then you have meanwhile different layers in norms. So you have a layer, very, let's say, helicopter view layer, which is valid for all technologies, describing the generic or the general demands to artificial intelligence algorithms. And then you have sector-specific features which are just important for that specific industrial sector. And so the whole concept of coming to standards and norms right now is in a change. And for us also in TÜVs, that also means that also the way how we test and also we need to educate our people, train our people, and keep them educated always to the edge of the state of the art of different technologies is changing, and also our training programs must be much faster than the past. So also here we need much more digital trainings now. We have so-called learning nuggets. We have an internal academy, which is now developing really into an internal digital academy, away from these classroom trainings. Now we have online modules, and yeah, this is now, by the way, also speeded up by the pandemic.
Next question comes anonymously, and the participant asks, as errors cannot be completely eliminated, it is very likely that, for an example, self-driving cars would make mistakes and trust of the user would be broken. What is your standpoint on trust repair in autonomous systems?
Trust repair? No.
Yeah. So I think the participant wants to know what should be the next steps if trust is broken once, and how do you re-establish it?
Yeah, this is a very good question, because it's not just valid for self-driving cars. You know, when you look at the history of technologies, I do not want to go now 150 years in the past, but look at this so to say, our founding idea. There was the most dangerous technology at that time were these steam pressure vessels. At that time, materials were bad. There was no welding. People, also the operators of these pressure vessels, did not really know how to operate it. Yeah, how much fire do you need to get the water boiled and get steam and so on? So the things just exploded because there was a misoperation. And unfortunately, many technological leapfrogs really happened after accidents. It's sad to say, but, and then the question is, why did these accidents happen? There are several reasons for accidents, obviously. I mean, the worst case is if the accidents happens because somebody really built in a fault. Yeah, I mean, look at that disaster now with this what is in English, this Seilbahn in Italy. Yeah, obviously there was they manipulated the safety systems. I mean, this is of course an accident which is a disaster, but it's nothing to do with standards and norms. But of course, will have a very bad influence on the trust to the operators of these facilities in Italy. I wonder which visitor of Italy, which holiday maker will use in the next 2, 3, 4 months again one of these cabins. I don't think so. So, but coming back to the original question, I think we have to live with the fact that accidents will happen. What we have to avoid is that there will be people harmed by technology, but there will be accidents. And what we have to do is we have to analyze the root cause of these accidents and then come with technical or other solutions to avoid such an accident again to happen. And it will always cause, of course, a crisis for trust, yes. And especially when we are, so to say, blamed of having done something wrong, we now, our industry, it will always be said, okay, despite it was tested, despite it was certified, there was this accident. Then of course also we have to learn. Fortunately, there are not so many examples that this was the case, but it will happen. Technology will always be dangerous, and we will see accidents, and we have to just learn from it to create trust again. Because people, if they are afraid, they will not use these technologies.
A next question from Simon is in the following lines. So, as you said, if a lot of times people are just afraid, Simon asks, do you think education and awareness is also a huge part of trust building?
Yeah, for sure. I mean that, and that is why we, for instance, we are TÜV Süd is a company with shares, and we have two shareholders. One is our association, the TÜV Süd Verein, and then we have a Stiftung, a foundation, TÜV Süd Stiftung. And the purpose of that foundation is to support the education of young people. Pupil students, but also very young people in kindergarten, to educate them in technology. And the reason for that is that we are absolutely sure that we need more awareness of especially young people about technology for two reasons. One is that they are not afraid of innovation, but the second reason, which is also important, that they also see the risks of technology. And you all know, I mean, you're all in a generation. You were grown up in the age of the iPhone. You know exactly what you should do with your data and whatnot. But my generation, for instance, or let's say the 45 and 50 years old people, they just didn't learn that, and they don't have the awareness. And they, in my view, are the most critical in terms of cyber fraud also, because they are not always really aware of the risks and of the opportunities. Look at the political discussion about technologies. Now in German we say Energiewende, the whole energy question and sustainability. I think it is absolutely necessary that we do whatever is possible to maintain this 1.5 or 2 degrees target, which we fortunately now have in the world. But when you follow the political discussion, how much bad knowledge about technological circumstances and relations between different things is really aware in politics. It's frightening in some cases. There are more dreams than reality, and that creates then also mistrust in society.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we also need some young people to join politics.
For sure. And I think these Fridays for Future, for instance, is a very good example. I think it's absolutely necessary that we need people like in Fridays for Future. But when Fridays for Future became big, that was 2-3 years ago. Yeah, everybody talked about Fridays for Future. I was in the board of the VDI, Verein der Deutschen Ingenieure. And so I went to the board meeting and said, shall we not contact them and ask them, just please, you are so interested in changing also the ways how technologies are used and so on, yeah? Please, at least then try to be engineer, yeah? Mechanical or electric engineer. Then you can do something for it, because it doesn't help that these people who have really, in my view, very valuable expectations to politicians just study history or, I don't know, other things which do not help us in that aspect, which also is necessary. But we see these people, they're really interested in the future of their generation, also of future generations. And they are the ones who have it in their hand. You all have it in your hand to do it. Then just do it. Help to do it. We need more young people there, yes. And therefore also this aspect of awareness, especially with students and also with people being at schools, is so important. I've twins, they are 9 years old, and I'm sometimes also frustrated what they learn in that respect at school. They learn more on TV when they look scientific programs there than what they learn at school. Here we need more training. We need more education. Yes.
I think this is a fantastic note to end our serious discussion at this point. And if you have a couple of more minutes, I'll quickly cover the rapid fire round and then we conclude this session, Professor.
Please.
So the following round is a bit more fun side, and I will ask you quick questions, and without thinking and taking much time, you need to reply.
Okay.
So are you ready?
I'll try my best.
All right. What do you think the first thing, what do you do the first thing in the morning?
Drink a cup of coffee.
What would your work colleagues describe you in 3 words?
What would my?
How would your work colleagues describe you in 3 words?
I'm listening. I'm sometimes impatient, and I am an engineer.
Do you have a favorite workday time waster?
Favorite work day time?
Waster.
Morning.
If you were not the chairman of TÜV Süd, what would you have been?
Architect.
What is the worst advice you have ever been given?
The worst?
Advice.
Advice.
Hmm?
Stop doing something.
Okay, choose anyone from below. Passion or experience?
Passion.
Elon Musk or Steve Jobs?
Elon Musk?
Tesla, Elon Musk or Steve Jobs?
Also, Steve Jobs.
Tesla or BMW?
BMW.
BMW.
Yeah, BMW.
Asia or Europe?
Europe.
All right. Well, at this point, I'd like to conclude today's event. And once again, thank you very much, Professor Stepken, and all of our participants for being with us today. To all the participants, if you want to know a bit more about AES, then get in touch with us on our social media handles or on our website. If you want to know more about trust and security, connect with TÜV Süd and follow Professor Stepken on LinkedIn. On this note, this is Vivek Modi signing off. Stay tuned with us because we are committed to bringing treat to your intellect and food for your thought. Wish you all a very nice rest of the week. Take care. Thank you, Professor, once again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.